Welcome to On the Spectrum. I'm your host, Terri Matthews. This is the show where we inform you, entertain you, and yes, educate you about all things autism. We like to call it prescription TV. Joining me, why'd I do that again? Okay, one more time. Selena said, just keep it rolling. Bloopers.
The fact that you don't have any person with a card or any type of script and you're just running it inside of your mind. It's very fascinating. You give yourself credit for that.
Welcome to On the Spectrum. I'm your host, Terri Matthews. This is the show where we inform you, entertain you, and educate you, yes, about all things autism. We like to call it prescription TV. Joining me today on Let's Talk is my good friend, Selena Johnson, who is an author, actress, TV show host, diva, mom. I mean, she's just everything. And she's going to be talking to us about her book, The Wait is Over, and how she balances life with having a kid on the spectrum. Selena, I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here.
You got your royal colors on today.
I'm trying to I'm giving queen tease today. Trying to give a queen tease.
So we have talked, we both have kids that are on the spectrum, and you know, we get a lot of emails and calls about like, how do you really do this, Terri? You know, and I'm thinking, you guys think I do something? You haven't met Selena yet. So you're on a show that airs 5 days a week, every morning. This is shot live, right? Tell me, like, how is that? How do you manage that? How do you manage that, a kid on the spectrum, a kid who's not on the spectrum, and a husband?
Oh my goodness. Girl, with great patience, I guess. With great patience. I have to tell you, I don't think that there's ever going to be a such thing as balance.
No.
And I heard that, yes, you were the person who kind of gave me that, that information when we were at the Legoland. I was like, you know what? It's no such thing as balance.
No, because everything can't be equal.
It can,
There's
and it's
no
just
way.
not. But what I have learned is that while you can't have balance, so to speak, you can give 100% to whatever it is that you're giving at that time.
I agree. Present.
To whatever it is. So like if you have a piece of pie and you have 33, or you have 25, but this half get 50, while you're with the two that are 25s, give 100% to that 25, 100% to that 25, as well as 100% to that 50. So you can at least find balance within yourself on how you approach things. Because a lot of times, what we try to do as women, we try to manage everything at the same time because we're very good at multitasking. So I'll try to get on the phone and cook and try to tell kids what to do,
Girl,
and do that, you can't.
Let me
It's
explain
just
something to
impossible.
you. I've been saying lately, I can do everything, I just can't do it at the same time.
You cannot do things at the same time. You have to focus. You have to say, right now I'm cooking. So while I'm cooking, I'm going to play music. I'm going to have wine. I'm going to do cooking.
Now, I have to ask you a personal question. When you are cooking, if you're playing music, are you listening to your own albums?
I am not, honey. I am listening to Marvin Gaye. Yes, I am. I want your
Let's
album.
get it on after dinner.
Yes, I am Marvin Gaye, honey. I am Marvin Gaye and Chardonnay. That is what I'm doing.
Marvin Gaye and Chardonnay.
I don't know what the kids are doing. That's on them. We'll figure it out when dinner is done.
I know that's right.
So daddy's on kid. If I'm cooking, everybody else has to be on everything else. So you just really have to say, if I'm on the phone, I'm on the phone. If I'm at a dinner with my family, I can't be on my phone too. You see what I'm saying?
I know,
just
I
have
get
to
it. I get
focus
it.
and
So that's always been my challenge. I have had to learn, and actually even through my kids, to put my phone down because running businesses is very difficult, right? And there's always an emergency.
Yeah.
But what other people think are an emergency isn't. So you wrote this book, which it takes a lot of time, patience. I've recently wrote a devotional, and the challenge that I had is that I took 30 days of almost straight solitude. I was kind of forced into it. That's a different show for a different day. I wasn't in jail. Just don't be tweeting and TMZ, whatever. But I was forced into a time period where I had the time to write, and I couldn't believe how much out of quiet time I got. And I had Jaden some of the days, but some of the days I didn't have Jaden. But it's hard to manage everybody else's expectations, take care of myself, and then do these things like goals that I have. So how did you get this book written, and how long did it take you?
Well, it took me 5 years. I woke up out of a dream and had the idea of the wait is over. And the weight is not just about, it talks about body image, but it's not about weight loss. The book is about the pressures of all of the things that women have to endure, and the weight being over loving your body from the outside in is the tagline, meaning waking up in the mirror and seeing yourself in the mirror and saying, I love that. Whatever state that's in.
Right.
I love
regardless.
that. And from there, whether you want to change it, fix it, adjust it, alter it from there, but for it being the right reasons. But I want to ask you why, this is a book of stories. And why did you choose devotionals? Why did you choose a devotional?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because for me, choosing a devotional, I was dealing with, I try to operate in my authentic self at all times. But I have realized really from adolescence that I had created a mask. I created a mask because back then I was hiding what my parents were doing, behaviors or things that were happening in my house that I was embarrassed by, us not having enough food. Maybe we were in a homeless shelter. So I had always developed this mask to make sure that things looked well on the outside.
Right.
And when I went through these periods of really digging and having self-reflection and trying to figure out why do I put these levels of pressure on myself, that's what made me write a devotional. And I realized, although I journaled, I wasn't always honest in my own journaling. I shaped the words, or I put the information in there that I felt like if someone ever picked this up, they won't know the real me.
So you were hiding in your hiding place.
Girl, yes.
Hello, somebody. That's a word. You were hiding in your hiding place.
Absolutely. And what's interesting to me is that I had not realized that in this process that I needed to shed some things. I need to really uncover some areas that I thought I had actually healed from. And I felt like all people needed to do that. And I was challenged by a lot of things. I'm very driven, okay? As a business person, I'm extremely driven. I want to get things done. I'm all about projects and timelines and execution. But at the end of the day, I didn't know how to be present. I knew how to be perfect, but I didn't know how to be present. So just what you're saying, that 25% of the pie, you need to be focused 100% there. And I think with having a kid on the spectrum, as we've shared in our personal time, it challenged me in some areas. It challenged me to really take a look at how I was handling things. How was I really dealing with my own emotions with my son? Was I going out into the world and still trying to be perfect and perfect this child? In a way that obviously on the outside he looks quote unquote normal, whatever that means. Right. But he was dealing with some things that I wanted to hide and bury and mask because that's what I had learned to do when things didn't look perfect. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting. We're both in this journaling and writing and reading and sharing our story phase. But what's interesting for me with you is, as I said, you tape your show live, right? Now I go to meetings, when I walk out the door, I've had those moments where Jaden has a meltdown and I've struggled, like I can't be late to meet with the governor of so-and-so, but my son is also first. And as I've heard you say, I'm a mom first. How do you deal with that when Kingston has a tough morning and you still got to be on the show, or you have a show, you have to get on a plane and go perform somewhere? How do you deal with that?
Well, what you just spoke of is mommy guilt. It's another form of mommy guilt. Kingston comes first. Jaden comes first. The governor has to wait.
Amen.
I'm very sorry to tell everybody. And you just have to trust that God will handle the rest. Wow. Because the thing with having a child on the spectrum is the unknown. And loving God and walking the walk of Christ is unknown.
Absolutely.
So if they're synonymous, then you have to behave in the same, you know what I'm saying? You have to behave. Whatever your walk is with Christ, you have to have that same walk with Jaden. As I have to have that same walk with Kingston. We have to understand that, again, that goes back to the whole concept of me understanding that Kingston and Jaden come straight from God. They're his, they're angels. Right. So we have to behave with them in such a way where we don't know what God's going to do. We don't know what they're going to do. And we just have to trust.
Way to think about it.
You have to trust. And for us, the reason why it is so difficult is because we're used to being in control of everything that is around us.
Yes, we are.
So Which is another reason why God gave us these children.
Right.
Because
so we can understand that we're really
that,
not
honey,
in
you
control.
ain't hitting on nothing. Okay. Okay. That you thought you had something, but we really ain't talking about nothing. Okay. So and that's what they show us. But in that weakness, in that vulnerability, we become stronger.
Well,
we become so much stronger.
So, for me, again, timelines, deadlines, all those things are important. And you're right. I did have to learn that, those things have to pause. My fear, right, again, was trying to develop and create a lifestyle that my kids would not have to experience. Because as folks know my story, my upbringing wasn't that great, right? So when I'm dealing with that, it was like, well, I have to go and make these things happen, right?
So that he can have a better
life,
and I can
go
get
to
all
a
the
good
things
school, or get
that
all
he
what
needs to have.
And the challenge that I have with that is that when I did not meet those timelines, and you're right, because those were the areas where God was saying things will happen on my time.
Yeah.
It's not about what time you think you're going to get it done. It's still going to happen on my time. I'll finish the work that I started in you. We all know that scripture, right? But it's kind of like, well, if I had it that I'm going to get this done in 6 months, and because of the time period or challenges that I had to go through with Jaden, and not just Jaden, life, husband, relationships, other kids.
Who's to say that what we think that Jaden and Kingston need is what they really need?
Nobody.
I'm just saying, we see what we should be giving them according to what this diagnosis is and what's what. But if we know God, then we know that He has it in control. What about mothers and fathers who don't have half of what we have? And their children are on the spectrum, and they still are able to provide for, at the bare minimum, a house, a roof over his head, clothes on his back, and love.
Absolutely.
And food in his mouth, and love is all that he will ever need. Everything else, in my opinion, are things that we want for him. But at the end of the day, I learn this every day with Kingston, even with all the therapies and the reading and the different things I try to do with him. They will get him better here and there. But the truth is, one day, Jaden and Kingston are just going to get it. They're just going to come to a place, and it might not necessarily be because of our efforts. I like to believe that it is because of our love.
That's a key point. I think sometimes I had to learn that, instead of putting all of these therapies on Jaden, just giving him the best options and opportunities, but just loving him right where he was, accepting those narrow thoughts sometimes that he can have with dealing with things. And we've talked about how we throw our kids into action. Do you, and what I mean by throwing them in an action, if I have to jump on a plane and go somewhere, I take Jaden with me. All those things that they said he can't do or it's not going to work. I mean, the sounds, the sensory issues, all of those things. I mean, to me, that's what has helped Jaden evolve. So my business side and me being busy has helped Jaden be acclimated and more social and deal with the loud noises. So do you do that same thing too?
Look at God. Well, for Kingston's never been on a plane, but he will. I just have not gotten around to putting him on a plane.
But you took him to Disney
World. But we go travel. We travel all the time. We go places. We do car rides. And at first, he used to act a fool in car rides. He used to turn up on us. But we were just like, forget it. You just gonna figure it out. We had to pull over and do all kind of foolishness.
So if you plan to get there at a certain time,
we late.
Okay.
Because he have a whole, choreographed tantrum right outside of whichever vehicle it is, and we sit there and eat popcorn and watch. Because you can't whoop him, you can't holler at him. You just gotta let him do his thing until he's done, and then you ready to go now? All right, let's go. So you just have to. It is what it is. We just have to let go and really let God and understand. For me, trying to understand that, again, I have to put everything in a spiritual frame of mind in order to understand it. It's almost like my spiritual processor. Right. So like when I don't understand stuff, I'm like, I want to see what God says. And then, well, if he says it, seek ye first the kingdom. Okay, well, I got to go to him first. And then if he says, cast all your cares unto me, for I care for you, then if he's saying these things, if he said them and they're in the good book, and I believe in him, then these are the times where, you have to lean onto him for understanding. So for me, this has worked. It has worked for me. When I don't know, I just give it to him. And sometimes that makes you feel like you're giving up. But
Right.
it's really not giving up. A lot of times the reason why we're stressed, or the reason why I'm stressed, is because I'm not letting go of things that are not my battle.
And you can't control everything.
You cannot.
Especially with autistic children. Just
Oh my
like you
God.
said, pulling over on the side of the road, giving them their moment.
And that's it.
But even in all of that, with us having, in our case, we're faith-based. We both lean on God, right? But we're still able to do these things. There's these visions in our lives that we know that God has put inside of our hearts, and we're working on books, we're working on television, you're singing, I'm buying businesses, whatever's going on in our lives. How would you say to encourage the audience members, like when they are, like you said, some of the families out here are just making the bare minimum, but they still have dreams, thoughts, and desires. And I have always said, people, there is life after autism. You don't have to die to your dreams, right? There are still things you're capable of doing. How do you talk to a parent who might not feel like there's no room, there's no time, there's no chance that any of these thoughts or dreams or desires I had before autism are going to happen? Would you say that's just not true?
I definitely don't think that is true. I think that we can do all things, and I think we can do them all in this lifetime. And what I would say to anyone who's trying to pursue a dream in the face of adversity, I would just say, listen, it's either now or never. Either you're going to make the choice to do what it is that you want to do in your life, regardless of what your situation is, or you'll look back at 80, you'll be 80 years old and you'll look back and say, I wish I'd have done that. That's one of the things that motivates me, because I'm a self-motivated person.
Right.
I always have been. But another thing that I've been trying to develop more and more for myself is organization. And being organized the best way that I can, and really fighting to have organization, and also reaching out for help, not being afraid to say, hey mom, come help me. If you have a village, if you have friends, if you have people around you that love you, chances are, and you're the strong one, chances are they want to help, but they feel like that you probably have it under control. Sometimes you might have to say, I need your help, and really solicit others for help.
Well, and that it's funny that you say that, because I think, again, for the hats that we have to wear, people on the outside think, oh, she got it together.
All going on.
She don't need no help.
No.
She's fine. Which, again, to me, writing this journal, the I Will journal, was like, you know what? I'm proclaiming that, I move my language from I can to I will. And again, when you said the wait is over, this isn't a journey just about weight, not shedding weight, but the weight of life, right? That weight of life.
The pressure that women have to deal with.
Right.
The fact that we have to be beautiful 24 hours a day. You expect us to have makeup, hair, nails, outfits, speak a certain kind of way. You really want us to be Stepford women. Not even wives. You just want us to look like Stepford women wherever we go. That is the picture that society paints for us, and it is making us have low self-esteem. It is making us accept anything from anyone because we want to be accepted. It is causing us to disregard loving ourselves before we disregard loving ourselves. We'll love others. We put others before us. So the wait is over. At the end, I tell you these stories on how I got to the place where the weight just kept piling on. Each story is the different weights. There are the different weights. But in the end, I talk about how I utilize that weight to actually make me stronger.
Wow.
So I lift the weight. And what I do is I change my perspective. And that's another thing that I think that I would want to tell all parents and everybody with any type of adversity, because having a child on the spectrum, it is outrageous, it's tough, it's a struggle, but where there's opposition, there's opportunity. And then I would tell people to change their perspective as much as they possibly can. Really sit with yourself and say, okay, I don't have any money this week. Well, I guess I'll be sitting at home. Wow, turns out I get to spend more time with my kids. So
you're gonna find
the good. We're gonna get the good out of every bad that's going on.
Amen.
And by doing that, it prevents you from being so stressed. It prevents you from being so stressed. You have to choose to be happy.
That's
Happiness
a choice.
is not.
Y'all hear that? You have to choose.
You have to choose it. You don't wake up and go, oh, okay, then I'm happy today. No, that's not how it works.
No.
You wake up with mercy, a fresh chance to choose what your day is going to be. And my grandmother used to always say, God rest her soul, I'd let just anybody bother me. I'd be so in my feelings on every little thing. She said, how are you going to let one person determine how the rest of your day is going to go?
From your household.
my grandma, yeah.
Whether it's starting at your household, when you
Yes.
land on your job,
Yes.
dealing with that text message that somebody
Yes.
sent last night that you didn't see until in the morning.
Yes.
No.
The wait is over.
The wait is over.
Because I will. Hello, somebody.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? You know the wait is over, then you go right in your journal, okay? You cuss everybody out in the journal.
And be transparent about it.
Don't be hiding your
No,
place.
put it in there. If it's your man, cuss him out in that journal.
And hope he fed.
Yeah. Then maybe he'll really want to talk about it for real.
How about it?
Listen, I was really mad that you did not help me in this situation. I was
Right.
figuring out with our son, you wasn't available, and I'm mad at you about it.
Right.
I'll tell you one thing. I am so happy for what you show women. You know what I mean? I am so thrilled that, first of all, we need more transparency like this. What would you feel? What do you want someone to get out of this book before we wrap this up? Because I want you to set people's expectation. They say we got the attention span of a goldfish now.
Uh-oh.
So I don't want people to see this and be like, oh, it's just Selena. I know that you wrote this book for a reason because you want somebody to get something out of this. Just like I wrote this because I want somebody to get something out of this. What do you want them to walk away?
I want women and men actually to stop putting pressure on themselves to be something that they're not. Just because society says you have to. I want people, as much as I want from myself even, which is why I wrote it, because I still struggle all the time. I'm an entertainer. I'm in the eyes of people all the time. My job is to present something to you so that you can judge it. That is the name of what I do. It is what it is. But I don't have to be subject to what that is. I can still keep pieces of me for me and my family, you know. But what I want people to, want men and women to understand is that loving you has to come first, and that it's okay that you've been through things that have made you become who you are.
And isn't it interesting that both of us have autistic children, and what you're saying is really what our autistic kids teach us? You know, they're not worried about what the world thinks.
They don't have time for it.
No.
They're trying to figure out these here Legos. Okay. Now
Legos,
they don't know.
Pokemon.
Yeah, they don't have time to be worried about.
No.
You know, he had on his underwear around here in the house. He came and went in the refrigerator. He said, "This is my house. You're in my house. These are my underwear in my house. Nobody else says anything any other day.
Right.
So you're the foreigner.
Right.
I'm doing me.
Right.
And first of all, there's purity in that. We all really need to be that way.
But it's teaching us something.
This is what I'm saying.
And we're not looking at our autistic kids like that. I'm so glad that you brought that up as a point, because in all honesty, it is really teaching us something.
Yes.
He's teaching us how to be pure. They're
How to
teaching
be
us how
like
to be
so?
authentic.
Yeah.
How to be okay. Okay,
Yes.
I'm skinny here, or, you know, I got a mark on this side of my body. Oh, well.
What's going to happen?
It's funny. So you guys out there, when you have these moments, think about your kids.
Yeah.
I was just sharing with the cast and the crew backstage. I said, listen, you know what's so funny? Jaden was in an elevator with me, and he sees this lady and she has wrinkles, and he was fascinated with older people and wrinkles. So we get in there and I'm like mortified, because he says, oh my God, look at all the wrinkles on your face. Do you have wrinkles on your booty too? I mean, he's really interested. You know what I mean?
Very funny.
I mean,
Now, absolutely.
I was like, please, somebody open
Outrageous.
this elevator, let us out.
I would have been, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I would have said that, and then I would have laughed
Would
to
you?
tears afterwards. Me and Jaden would have went somewhere and laughed, because that's actually very funny. Now, it's not right. And as a mother in that moment, that was tough.
Yes, it was.
It was tough.
It was.
But again, that is another moment where God wants you to laugh.
And I think that
Come
that's
on
what
now.
everybody needs to understand.
God
So
wants you to
those
laugh.
of you with raising a kid on the spectrum, understanding that, you know, us sharing our journeys and our stories, and knowing that it takes a lot to balance all the things that we're doing, that we strive for perfection. We're not perfect. We deal with self-doubt, right? We're constantly reinforcing ourselves and feeling like sometimes that we can't handle it all. We have peer relationships with each other, you know, where you find that support group, that partner. Sometimes our families understand, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want all of you out there to understand that if Selena and I can do it, with all the pressures that we have, that you can do it too. You can write that book.
And
you can write
and
that
I
song.
wrote this book. Like I had
Yes.
a person that helped me in the beginning, but it wasn't flowing of how I speak.
Because nobody has your voice.
So I had to write it myself. And let me tell you, it was the most therapeutic thing ever, because when I wrote each story, I found out what I did to what I took from it.
Wow.
That's another thing that I just want to, leave with anybody going through adversity and autism parents. Every single instance, those tantrums, those moments where you can't get them to eat things, those moments where they won't go to sleep, those moments when they say things that are embarrassing or strip in the middle of a Target or whatever the case may be, those moments, there's something in them. There's a lesson in them. And that's the most important part. Why did God put me there? What was in that moment that I needed to take away from with me?
Well, when he was naked in Target, for me, it was embarrassment. No.
But see, that's the thing. I'm embarrassed.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And how do I deal with that? How do you process that? I mean, that would be my question.
But well, first of all, it's an emotion, which means it comes and goes.
Right.
Second of all, it's human. And I think the problem is that you're not yet okay in that moment with being human.
I like that. Some of you may not be okay with being human. I'm okay now. He's stripped in restaurants and everything else at this point. I've gotten better. I've gotten better. I just be like, excuse us. I'm sorry, little Flash.
He's hot. He's hot, Flash.
That's a good one. I thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
Before they kill us, I got to wrap up. I know you and I can talk on and on and on, especially when it comes to wanting people to understand that they can do this.
Yeah.
They can be a mom, and we're all super in our own way.
And that this is happening. We need to have more help for our children on the spectrum. And I really hope that legislation starts to do more for our children as far as help is concerned, because I think that the nation has not yet understood that this is really a serious issue.
Very much so.
And we do need therapies. We do need help. We need our health insurance to cover these things. We need help with this. We shouldn't be paying for this out of our pockets. That's another thing that's stressful and out of control. And that in the African American community, it's also very rampant, and there's nothing being done about it. So I commend you for this show, because there needs to be awareness.
We're going to make some changes.
We have to.
So we have two awesome books, The I Will Journal and definitely The Wait Is Over by Selena. And comment below, and 2 lucky winners will be picked so that they can have this as part of their toolbox. Well, we thank you and glad you were able to join us for this section of Let's Talk. For more information about this or other things around On the Spectrum, log on to youtube.com/onthespectrumtm, or for more downloadable resources, www.onthespectrum.tv. That's all the time we have. See you next time on The Spectrum.